Hi, welcome to today's editorial discussion and daily news analysis of VLearn IAS, dated 26 July 2022. So these are the topics that we are going to take for discussion today. The first topic is about Raja Ravi Verma's kin seeking Bharat Ratna for him. The topic is can be connected to following aspect of syllabus like Indian heritage and culture. The second topic is about geopolitics, a global order caught up in a swirl of chaos. It can be connected to the following aspect of the syllabus. And also one more topic that is about climate action, and it can be connected to climate change in the UPSC syllabus. Now let's start the discussion. So the first topic is about Raja Ravi Verma. You know very well about Raja Ravi Verma is an eminent painter uh, who is the part of the modern trend in Indian painting. Let's know more about him. So let's look into what is the contest. As a part of 175th birth anniversary of Raja Ravivarma, his king is demanding him to give him Bharat Ratna as the highest civilian award. So his birthday falls on 29th April. He is remembered for giving Indians with their Western classical representation of Hindu gods and goddesses. So why does such a demand? Considering his excellence and path-breaking innovations in painting, especially he made the Indian painting famous abroad. So he internationalized the Indian paintings, which showered lot of demand for Indian painting and lot of prestige for Indian painting, and also it inspired so many generation of new painters to Indian architecture, culture, textiles, etc. So it is believed that he had made around 7,000 paintings before his death of the age of 58. It's a remarkable achievement, having 7,000 paint before the age of 58, which is very much made him such a genius painter. But only one painting is now left, known as Chitrashala, the artist studio of at Kilimanur Palace. So, apart from his portraits mainly on mythological figures, he also portraits many Indians as well as Europeans. That makes his painting very vivid, that means very variety one. Both portrait and landscape paintings are considered among the first Indian artists to use oil painting. What makes his painting different from other paintings is that he used both portrait type of painting and landscape type of painting. That portrait means choosing one particular figure, and landscape means having a particular land areas showing in the figure. And also he was the first among to use oil paintings. The important aspect of his painting is that he Europeanized the school of painting in India. That means European artistic elements were included in his painting style. So these are some important paintings of Raja Ravi Verma. One is Maharashtrian lady with fruits, lady in the moonlight, Malabar lady with violin, Nair lady adorning her hair, lady with sorbat. So the realistic oil painting is mainly used in all these characters, and it also portrays both landscape view and also portrait. So knowing some historical aspects of Raja Ravi Verma, his biographical aspects. He was born in an aristocratic family in Travancore in Kerala. At the age of 14, Verma was patronized by Ailian Tirunal, the ruler of Travancore. Later went to receive training under Ramaswamy Naidu, the royal painter. So at a very young age itself, he got training from an eminent painter. He mastered the reproduction of his work on the lithographic press. So what is this lithographic press? This lithographic press is a method of printing based on the principle of oil and water that do not mix. That means it is a type of painting or method of painting in which oil and water do not mix each other. Verma later set up his own printing press in Maharashtra. Later he went to have his own printing press in Maharashtra. Through his printing press, Verma paintings traveled in the prayer and living rooms of working class homes. So this aspect makes his painting so much democratic that it went into the homes and rooms of working class homes. Earlier, majority of the royal family had such a painting, but his democratic painting went into the rooms of working class also, which made him so much popular. So these are some of his famous work that like Damayanti, Shakuntala, Nayar, Lady Shantanu, Malsigandha. So some of the award and honor that he got was in 1804, British colonial government awarded him with Kaiser in Hind gold medal. In 2013, a crater on the planet of Mercury was named in his honor. So such a remarkable achievement is given to him by other countries. So that's why such a demand comes for his painting right now. Okay, the next topic is about the changing global order, mainly contextualized as a part of Ukraine-Russia conflict. So we know that the Ukraine-Russia conflict has altered the whole contours of the world governance. The geopolitical experts in the West confirm that this war can alone determine not only the war but other critical aspects as well. So it is a watershed movement which is changing the whole world governance together. So let's look at the map. Here is this Ukraine-Russia border and the Sea of Azov. These are main war-torn region like Kharkiv, Donetsk, Mariupol, etc. So have a look on the map. So what about what is the impact of this war on Europe? The European leaders are tending to look inwards. This war has made more protectionist tendency or attitude to the European leaders, especially many countries which were mainly promoting globalization is now looking inwards. This is mainly because many countries like Germany, who is currently facing an energy crisis due to the war, United Kingdom, which already facing such a backlash due to Brexit, is compounded with this war also. And the spiraling energy cost, food fertilizers and other costs in the Europe is made these countries to think or look inwards when compared to other countries. So why this so much? There will be so much map during this discussion, because only when we connect this geopolitics with world geography, we can get a good picture of what the whole picture is. So this map depicts what are the important European countries, European Union countries, and this is Ukraine, Kiev, and this is Russia. So apart from this, nations do face several other problems also. Beyond this problem, there are several other problems like foreign exchange crisis. You know that Russia is already an important partner to many European countries, especially for their energy demands and other business activities also. But this war has altered all this business and other energy crisis. So this impact is feeling beyond now. Now this impact is feeling beyond the Europe also. So 6 months into Ukraine-Russia conflict, the topology of geopolitics is appearing undergoing majority changes. Change in the global politics is evident. China and Russia, for instance, appear to have further cemented their relationship. So the main power rivalries between USA, China, and Russia is now Russia and China is forging a new relationship post this Ukraine conflict. So this is the main geographical map of what this European Union Russia includes. Okay. So then this shows the significance of the whole region and the forging alliance between Russia and China, how it can impact the Europe in the whole picture. So Russia's growing closeness to China further intensifies the Ukraine-Russia conflict. This is because already there's a peaceful rise of China in the later 20th century. So again with this alliance, it is further intensifying in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. So earlier there was Sino-Soviet alliance during 1950s and their bonhoming during 1950s and 60s. At the time, this had been described as lips and teeth relationship. So in the historical aspect also, there was a bonhomie between these two countries, that is Russia and China. And this bonhomie is known as, in geopolitical parlance, is known as lips and teeth relationship. At the same time, the more possession of Indo or more power of the Indo-Pacific region or more influence on the Indo-Pacific region by the Chinese has intensified the power rivalry block between these two also. War has intensified the relationship between the two, but the more in assertiveness by China on the Indo-Pacific region has further enhanced the rift between China and Russia. So this is the Indo-Pacific region. So this is the whole picture shows the important Asia Pacific as well as Indo-Pacific region. You know that the whole region is important as a sea line of communication as a energy deposit, trade. There are so many choke points like Malacca Strait. Like this whole region becomes significant. So not all efforts that including United States like AUKUS, Quad and other like partners in the Blue Pacific can hope to effectively alternate the changing system. That means although on the one side there is war, on the other side there is groupings by USA like AUKUS, Quad and other grouping like partners in the Blue Pacific. But these are not able to counter the assertiveness caused by Russia and China. Thus, China is changing nature of the relationship in Asia. Most of the Asian nations appear unwilling to take side in the event of conflict. So, one of the issues that during Cold War also such an issue came into being to take into side of either to USA or USSR. Likewise, currently also the situation is rising up either to join USA-led Western side or US or Russia, China grouping. But majority of the Asian nations who had the legacy of non-alignment is against standing apart without joining any of these alliances. So in this aspect, India's relationship with the neighborhood becomes very much important. So this is a map of India and its neighborhood. One is Afghanistan, Pakistan, Nepal, China, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, and that's all Maldives. So have a look into this map. So how about India's role in the neighborhood become critical? We know that India's neighborhood is not in a good shape post this war also. All the majority of the regions in the India's neighborhood either facing economic crisis or political crisis. For example, if you take into China, it was the epicenter of COVID-19 virus. The majority of the world is isolating China, and there has been a contraction in the Chinese economy, which is not that good for a Indian market and also world market also. But there is a hope for India to capture the market left by Chinese products. So apart from that, the another neighbor country like Afghanistan, which is under Taliban rule, is also posing challenge to India's diplomacy. On the other important neighbor like Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka is an important neighbor for India, especially when Indo-Pacific strategy is concerned. But the current economic meltdown and followed by the political crisis has altered how changed the contour of the relationship between India and Sri Lanka. So India has to stand careful and watch the situation and make necessary change in the content of the relationship, bilateral relationship between India and Sri Lanka. Otherwise, it will further fill in the part of China's debt trap diplomacy. So next important aspect the author is saying is about India's relationship with West Asia. So West Asia on the post-Abraham Accord. Abraham Accord is mainly based between Israel and UAE, which was an eye-opener or an accord between Israel and the Arabs. So post this Abraham Accord of 2020, Western countries, that mainly USA is having so much assertiveness on the West Asia region. So traditionally, India has a good relationship between West Asia. Currently, India is also a partner of alliance known as I2U2 with the USA. At the same time, Russia and China is trying to keep a forge a good alliance with Iran to counter this. So already and there is a tussle between power in the West Asia region, but the region is currently in conflict with sectarian fight like Shia and Sunni. So the main energy security of majority of countries like India mainly depends on the regional stability of West Asia. So a good tie-up between West Asia is very much essential for the energy security of India is concerned. So along with the forging alliance with I2 and U2, India must also think more about forging new contours or more content in the bilateral relationship. Finally, the author is saying about the nuclear deterrence. So the majority of the nation who is taking part in this war is nuclear powered nation. So essential nuclear deterrence is very much essential to have a position on the world global order, because more deterrence power a country is having, the more say it have on the changing new global order. That's what the author concludes about saying about the war situation, about climate action. So what is the context? Post the Russia-Ukraine war, majority of the Western nation, especially the European nations, is reinterpreting the Paris deal, and they are downgrading their commitments, mainly to overcome their energy deficiency and other business fault post this war. Especially in the countries in the Europe led by Germany, Austria, and Netherlands, is again bringing back their coal plants, which is violating their landmark Paris deal. And also there is a push for emission cuts from the agriculture sector, which is the main traditional export sector from Europe. So this is mainly because the renewable energy sector is not meeting the rising power demand, especially in summer and winter, and this situation is further aggravated by the climate change crisis also. So also the main power player of the Western nations, and that is US, is also facing backlash for its commitments to the climate action. This is mainly because of the issue of rising inflation, and also the energy security demand rising up from the business class. So they are also demanding for witness for recalibration US policy towards Gulf. This Gulf region is now mainly looked up as a region for its energy security by majority of the nations across the globe. So US choice between concentrating on its economy and getting it on track for its people and fighting hard against climate change is actually giving it a dilemma to choose which one for it. So majority of the Western thinkers thought that post COVID-19 pandemic there will be a huge switch to the renewables, but it was a foolish thing. The author is saying this is mainly because of this aspect. The current economic situation is worsening day by day for majority of the developing economies, especially due to the rise in inflation and skyrocketing energy prices has made government to undercut their commitment to climate change and further increase their business output. So in this backdrop, the role played by India in fighting climate change is also very much significant, since it is one of the leading countries among the developing nations and also an important emitter also. So even during the last COP meeting, Prime Minister has talked about phasing down the coal rather than phasing out. This is mainly taken into consideration the economic stand the country is currently having. So the energy requirement for the economy to develop is very much essential. Further, majority of the nations have decided to bring down their commitment. So this will have a serious implication on rising down the average global temperature from 2 degrees Celsius, which currently is in a very critical point, because majority of the nations in the Western Europe and everywhere is facing events like wildfire, many heat waves events is facing. So this will further impact the economic development also. So the Article 4 of the Paris Agreement talks about the global peaking by majority of the nations. So majority of the nations have committed to peak their coal output and further bring to net zero aspect by 2050. So India's commitment for 2050 for the net zero aspect is around 2070. So it becomes very clear that global net zero, where developing countries take longer to reach net zero, can only be achieved if the developing countries reach net zero earlier than 2050. So the main contradiction here is that the developing countries can achieve net zero only after 2050. But the main issue is that in order to reduce the rise of 2 degrees Celsius temperature, the net zero should be achieved before 2050. So the main issue is legacy questions that comes in the aspect is about the financial and technological transfer that should be made between developed and developing countries. Only when more technology and finance reaches the developing countries, they can create or fight or mitigate the climate change. Otherwise, there will be a disastrous world economic geopolitical scenario in the whole world. So one of the UK Prime Minister candidates recently said that a net zero plan must not clobber people. This is another way of saying that let's forget about it for the present. So majority of the nations who is looking inward is thinking about their country only. So the philosophy like Vasudeva Kudumbakam, that means whole world is one family, gain significance in this aspect. So the climate change, which is a whole humanity issue, is now not considered by majority of the countries, especially the developing countries. And also the global stocktake of Paris Agreement will be done in 2023 to assess the world collective progress towards achieving the long-term goals. So it is only in 2023 that a global stocktake will be taken to know the current achievements. In the current scenario, this stocktake may well provide the developed countries the right to form to shift burden of their mitigation commitments on developing countries. So the issue that will be rising that post this global stocktake in 2023, the burden of the mitigation will fall on developing countries, especially on the aspect of sustainable development goals to be achieved by 2030. So holding their feet to the fire. So what is happening to the plan of developed countries mobilizing 100 billion per year by 2020 for climate action in developing countries? Can the global transition or renewable without genuine transfer to credible technology? So this is the main dilemma question. So what will happen if there is no proper financial transfer? What will happen if there is no proper technological transfer to the developing countries? So India stands a beacon of hope in renewables. So what is the next or way forward the author is saying? According to author, India stands as a beacon of hope for renewables. So it is time for developing countries, especially small island developing countries, to make sure that developed world does not backslide their commitments. The coming COP27 in Egypt gives us an opportunity to hold their feet to the fire. So it is time for developed world to make net minus pledges. So currently we are looking for net zero pledges. So the author is moving further and saying that we must now consider taking about a net minus pledges. So how much reduction we can make? We must make maximum reduction to the carbon output. So this is all for today's discussion. Thank you and kindly subscribe to our channel.